Hello and welcome to the full coalition for the Coalition of Longmeadow Organizing Substance Education. This is our spring meeting. It's June 10th. It's great to see everybody coming out here for a morning meeting at 10 a.m. I'd love to have folks go around and introduce who you are, what role you play in your communities, if it's a parent or if it's a doctor or if it's a service member in the military or whatever. Just let us know the sector you might be representing today. In attendance, and then after that we'll jump into our agenda. So the first person I see to my right is Shelly.
I'm Shelly Warren. I'm the president of the board for Close Community, but I also work at the high school as the substance use response coordinator. So I wear a couple of hats. Oh, and I think I might have somebody coming in to join the meeting.
How exciting. A real knock. So we had an actual ding dong and then a knock at the same time. That's great. Chris Rich is just about to join us. Right to the right of Shelly, I see Paulette Merrill.
Hi, I'm an RN BSN student at Westfield State University, and I'm doing my capstone project on community intervention and prevention.
And she's doing it with the Close Community Coalition. She's been an awesome person to work with. She just started a few weeks ago. And then Jenna.
Hi, my name is Jenna Spochak, and I'm the coordinator for Hamden Wilbraham Partners for Youth Coalition.
Thanks, Jenna. And I see Lisa.
Good morning. I'm the SFIFI Coalition Coordinator, which is in Hampshire County, sorry, not Hamden.
It's in the Hampshire County part of Hamden County.
Right, exactly.
Thanks, Lisa. And then I see Gail Savetti.
Hi there, Gail Savetti from the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences at Western New England University.
She's consistently rated the best professor at WNEU.
I don't know about that, but I do love the students.
That's what the students tell me. I'm just going off of their anecdotes. That's very valuable anecdotal evidence, Sheila. And I see Tim Callahan's next.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Callahan. I work for Close Community doing several different things. I'm also an active duty service member. That's my dog in the background. Brady, come on. But I'm an active duty service member. I'm on terminal leave, so I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be working.
Yeah, Tim's doing a ton of outreach and communications work for the coalition over the summer, and he's really helping the coalition during my family leave, which is taking place in two very interesting parts. One of them already took place, and another one's coming up in the early fall. Chris Rich.
I am Chris Rich, and I am a parent representative.
And she's secretly our vice chair. A lot of people don't know that. She's a very sneaky leader in the coalition.
So sneaky.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. And Jonah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I am Jonah Barresi. I'm part of the youth sector at Close Community. I'm a junior at Longmeadow High School.
And very active leader in the Students Together Against Negative Decisions club at school. Jonah's the man. All right. And I think that's it for attendees. Okie doke. I am going to copy and paste the agenda into the chat box. If I just have one moment. Here it is. Okie dokie. We're going to start the meeting. Is it 10:15 yet? Jonah, do you know if you'll be the only one able to present on the strategy to address youth risky behaviors and parent norms and attitudes within the middle school parent group? Or are you going to be flying solo?
I know Catherine and Kaylee are supposed to come.
Okay.
So maybe like heading home for like a break and then them join when they can. But yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, that's what we're going to start with. So maybe we'll wait a few more minutes and we'll jump to the next item in the agenda. So clearly the way that this pasted in the chat box is very ugly. But take a look. We're gonna have the Students Together Against Negative Decisions leaders propose a strategy to address youth risky behaviors and parent norms and attitudes and a way to work with middle school parents specifically. So that's very exciting, and we're glad to have them present, and that'll be in a few minutes. The next item on the agenda we can just jump into, and then we can track back to Stan's presentation. So we're going to talk about marijuana prevention efforts in the coalition that we've been really focusing on at the last few board meetings, the last coalition meeting. And I think we have some targeted efforts over the summer and interventions, which is very exciting. So we've come up with some interventions to work on over the summer, and they include a lot of assessment and evaluation strategies and interventions. We also, the first thing I would like to talk about is what we even call marijuana. So Shelly and I and some other folks have been exposed to some kind of new, it's not new information to a lot of people, but it's newer to, I think, the prevention field. The idea of using the word marijuana as a social justice concern. And so we're interested in sort of shifting all of the language that the coalition uses around the word marijuana and shifting it toward the word cannabis. And Shelly, did you have the NPR? Was it NPR? There was just a great article on the significance of that. Where is she?
Sorry, Jonah and I are in the same room, so we have to control our muting and our audio.
Oh, shoot.
So do you want me to drop that in the chat, or do you want
drop
me
it in
to
the
talk
chat,
about-
and then just a little background would be awesome.
All right, I have to look it up and drop it in the chat in a sec. But the gist of it is that the origins of the usage of the term is connected to anti-immigration sentiment, specifically directed against Mexican immigrants, and that it was used as a part of like the initial war on drugs to associate the drug with immigrant communities as a way of making it negative. It was a way to, like, cast a negative light on it, but it also casts a negative light on immigrant communities as well. So it is considered to be a pejorative word for it now. So there is some traction, I think, for shifting it. And you definitely see, people who are pro-cannabis, using the word cannabis instead of marijuana, and they're kind of playing the social justice angle to it as well. But I don't think that should be a detraction from us using the word cannabis either, personally. And I would rather actually use the same term that's being used by people who are interested in it. So that's where I'm coming from on it. And I will look up the article. There are many articles out there, but this one, it's actually several years old now. And I'll drop it into the chat, but we would, be interested in hearing any other thoughts that people had about that.
Yeah, well, let's open it up to the coalition. What do y'all think about that transition to using the word cannabis?
I mean, I definitely feel like it's like an older, like marijuana is an older term. I feel like as it becomes legalized, whether you think that's good or bad, I think that it's kind of like how Shelly said, like marijuana had such a negative stigma associated to like just the word, that cannabis can be, I guess, kind of a good way to switch over to make it less race related or more proactive, to be just like a better term, I guess, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Actually, Tim, this might be a good opportunity before a few more youth show up. You have done specifically research on what is allowed and what is not allowable as cannabis retail or cannabis grow facility in the state of Massachusetts, as far as language, advertising, marketing, and signage. Could you give us like a quick snapshot as to like what those limitations might be? Because it has a lot to do, I think, with the language that people choose.
Yeah, absolutely. So the research that I did was more based on advertising from like a brick and mortar business standpoint, and the laws that surround that. But the quick snapshot of it all was everything I just found on the mass.gov website, and it's under 935 CMR 502.105 and then 4A. And I'll write that in the chat because that is a lot to remember.
We're going to be quizzing everyone at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, but basically, as far as like all of the advertising laws and stuff are concerned, the big rules of thumb are that it can't target anybody that's under 21 years of age. And if you have something like a billboard, then it has to be justifiable that 85% of the people who view that billboard are 21 years of age or older, based off the demographic of that place that it's located or where people will see it. So like a good example is in Springfield, if you're driving down I-91 or I-90 or whatever highway and you see a giant billboard and it talks about like, you know, cannabis is great, go to this cannabis store, then they'd have to justify that 85% of the people who view that are 21 years of age or older. So it's kind of like a gray area. Like, I don't know how you'd really justify that besides an actual demographic like of that city. But that's the big one as far as like advertising on billboards goes. But then as far as like a brick and mortar store, they're really strict on there can't be any cannabis related, like you can't have a neon pot leaf sign outside of the store. It can't have any type of advertising in that way. You can't just like give stuff away. You can't just have like a free discounted cannabis day. That's illegal. And then they have, and nothing can be, they can't have a cartoon, can't have mascots, you can't have anything that would appeal to somebody under the age of 21. So those are really the big ones. You can't have like colloquial, I can't never pronounce that word, language. So you can't have like Jack's or whatever's pot store, or you can't have any slang. It has to be whatever the name is, cannabis store, company, or just nothing. Like I think of Netta in Northampton, like it's just Netta. And it's like the N-E, and then it's a little digital looking tree, and then the A. So that's a pretty good example of what you can do for the marketing, where there's no like, there's really no debating like what it is, but there's also no, it's not misleading in any way. And then that's probably the last biggest one is you just can't have any advertising that is deceptive, false, misleading, untrue, or anything like that. So all of it kind of centers and focuses back around on not appealing to anybody under the age of 21, not having any advertising or products related to cannabis itself, like on the exterior of your building, and then not having any misleading or untrue information where somebody could interpret that, oh, you know, if I smoke, it's good for me. There's no medical benefit approved by the FDA. So that's really strict in Massachusetts. You can't advertise that it will help you.
Hey, Tim.
Yes.
What about one of the first place that I became aware of is called Theory Wellness. How do they get away with that?
So some stores, it's different for medical marijuana exclusive stores. So
I don't think it is one.
Okay. I don't know personally about Theory. I do know that there's a place in Northampton that is strictly for medical use. And so the laws for medical use are different than they are for recreational use. And a lot of it is that you can advertise to an extent where it does benefit stuff or whatever illness you have medically.
The theory is both recreational and medical. So I think that's how they get away with that.
Yeah.
It's totally a gray area, or it's not a gray area if it's just a recreational store, but most of these recreational stores initiated their licensing by getting a medical license first, knowing that they'd get into the, for-profit recreational game. And so it's totally a gray area. Like Tim and I were talking about that. There's a billboard on I-91 that says something like, marijuana makes your life better. Or there's some, that's like the whole catchphrase, which is totally subject to criticism. And so if people report that to the Cannabis Control Commission, that's something that might get brought down. I think they brought down, what is it? INSA is a dispensary in East Hampton, and they just had a picture of like a young person hiking, and like there was some caption around it that was about like making you feel great, and they had to pull that down because there was concerns or criticisms against that from community members in Springfield. So people have to kind of call them out. It's disappointing that they're not just policing themselves. And I wanted to can I share my screen real quick with folks? Because just what Tim is talking about, there's let me see if I can find it again. So there's a store in East Hampton that finally opened its doors, you know, within the last. What's that? Okay, the name of the store is The Verb is Herb. So in the title of this recreational dispensary is the word herb, which is completely not allowable, right? But for whatever reason, I mean, this got in, you know, through the licensing process. So like, I have no idea what people are thinking. This is like exactly what they were trying to avoid by having it be a colloquial word like herb. It'd be like saying, you know, weed shop here or whatever. They can use apparently the word dispensary. They can use the word cannabis. Apparently they can have a compass symbol for whatever that means. But that's the sort of thing like local communities have to report this to the Cannabis Control Commission, or else. And this is right down. This is literally it's like 2 doors down from an ice cream shop where like 100 teenagers and kids visit a day. So well done for East Hampton for planning that. And what was the other thing? Oh, so yeah, I feel like the last thing Tim and I were talking about was if you see anything that's concerning that might target teenagers or like the juvenile marketing techniques that we're trying to avoid in the state, then contacting the Cannabis Control Commission is one of the most effective ways to do that. And they immediately communicate with those licensees because there's not that many. Seems like there's a lot more than there are. So Tim, did you have the Cannabis Control Commission info you could share?
I just shared the actual where to find it in the chat on mass.gov. As far as the Cannabis Control Commission, you can just like, if you just Google them, it is like the easiest thing to find because I think it's such a hot topic right now. So, but I did want to say that the medical field is like it is a good gray area. And that's a lot of how they'll go medical and then they kind of lean more towards recreational, how Paul said. But a big thing for advertising is that according to the FDA and according to the CCC, they only recognize, I think it's 8 illnesses that are actually approved to be treated with medical marijuana. And it's like ALS, cancer, if you're going through chemo, stuff like that. And it's not like anxiety or some of the more like mental health that I knew when I grew up, it was way more common to hear that. So according to the CCC, it's only those 8 things, which I can try to find and put in the chat. But if you see something that's like smoke and your anxiety will go away, that's completely illegal according to the CCC because there's no FDA evidence that backs that up yet. So they haven't approved it, which means that you can't market to say that it's approved to do that, at least legally. You know, if somebody tells you it, I would imagine that's different. But even if it's an employee, they're not like a doctor. They can't prescribe you that stuff. So, yeah.
That would be an interesting thing. And soon we'll share after the student presentation. We'll talk a little bit about the cannabis environmental scan. But one piece of that could be useful for 21 and over volunteers that help us out is basically asking for medical advice from the bud tenders to see if they disseminate medical advice. Because I know that they were doing that as soon as that store opened in Netta. The people selling, the retail clerks, they're called bud tenders, were totally overselling the health benefits of marijuana or cannabis, without any retribution. Like there's no like consequences. So if people are sort of keeping track of that, they can sort of hold the industry more accountable than has been the case. Any questions for Tim before we move on to the student presentation?
I should also probably preface that whole thing with I am not a lawyer. So I don't really, don't take what I'm saying, I guess, as gospel. I did do some research, but but more of in like a concerned citizen role, I guess. Less like my cousin's a lawyer, I'm not, so that's why I just don't want to have that be have that come back and be like, he said I could do this, and I could be wrong. So
Great disclaimer, Tim.
thank you, thank you.
I had one question. I had heard something about like they couldn't have specifics around like go to this address or something like that. Have you heard anything about that, Tim? I may have no idea, but someone had said something to me about. And we had a recent full coalition meeting, and there was a lot of concern about cannabis advertising. So I do think it's great to start this conversation. I think there's a lot more that we can do about that. There's, even legislators were concerned about that who came to our meeting. So
Yeah.
Thanks for
As
starting
far
that
as, like,
discussion.
Yeah, as far as being like you can advertise, they can advertise really as much as they want. It just can't appeal to anybody who is 21 or younger, and the demographic has to be 85% 21 and older. So how you like mitigate that? Like if like you have a commercial on like whatever local news, 22 News, then I don't know how you would be able to mitigate and justify saying that 85% of the people who are being aired to that are over 21 or older. So, but as far as being like, go to this place to smoke or seeing a commercial for that, that I'm not 100% sure about. I didn't see anything that said that they couldn't do that. I did see other stuff saying like if you're at a sporting event, like they can sponsor a sporting event, but it can't be like a little league game. You know what I mean? So there is that gray area of like what you can and can't do. And it's not even really so gray, but when you start to think about it, it's kind of like, well, I guess they could probably get away with this or that. So that I'm not 100% positive on that.
And does the CCC enforce, on the gray, or do you have to like is it the burden to make the case that, more than 15% of young people, that pass by Springfield on 91, like who has the burden to prove that that is actually not accurate, that it's not only 85% that are seeing, over whatever age.
From what I understand, it's the CCC is the one that is like the hammer, like they are the judge. And then it would be like a concerned citizen would say like, because I live in Northampton where there's like 15 different stores now. So, and we have the most foot traffic of probably like anywhere in Western Mass. So that's obviously like a huge concern here. But it would be like, I walk by a store, on the outside of the store, they have like a big like banner saying like, we have the best cannabis smoke here. And then like a bunch of logos of like different like leaves or paraphernalia and stuff. I'd call the CCC, and then they'd be the ones that would enforce whatever regulation has been in violation of that. How they do that, I don't know. But from what I understand, the CCC is like the hammer, basically, for lack of a better term. And
Lisa's been a leader in the region on organizing education for legislators and local policymakers. Spiffy's been a champion of organizing events like that. There's one coming up on June 16th for local policymakers and state legislators, that's awesome. It's all about, how is marijuana being managed in the state or not being managed? And I think it's excellent that coalitions and coalition leaders are leading the charge, because it should be the other way around, shouldn't it? Local policymakers and legislators educating us as to like what's being done to safeguard our public, but it's the other way around. So I guess that burden is on us. If I could jump ahead to the student presentation, I would love to. So we have some students together against negative decisions, leaders in the room. Catherine Mulcahy, an amazing graphic designer for our coalition, and looks like Kaylee Bone is here, and Jonah Barresi is here. Take it away, folks. Do you have anything you want us to share, like image-wise?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, it's all verbal. I dig it.
All right, Kaylee, Catherine, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, Kaylee, you got it? I can try. I don't know if you guys can hear me well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So just an intro. We are STAND, which is students together against negative decisions. And a problem we've been facing, or we've been talking about in STAND, is alcohol use, and especially parent giving children alcohol and all issues related with that. And so we came up with a solution to try to help decrease that.
Yeah, and so we kind of started to talk a little bit about how, transitioning into high school is really hard for some people, and it can be tough for parents to sort of, make decisions and do things for their kid when they don't really know what's going on. And so we thought of doing like a step up day for parents. Step up day for like eighth graders is like they go to the high school and they see what's going on and they talk to people, to high schoolers. So we thought about putting together a time and a place where veteran high school parents could talk to newbie high school parents, and sort of describe their experience and the things that they noticed had gone well, or things that they did well, or things that they wish they had done differently, and allow time for parents to ask questions, and possibly even getting some feedback from high school students, anonymously, and about things that they wish that their parents had done or things that they parents did do well. And this could range specifically on drug use, but also in general in making the transition easier for students, to reduce stress and make their time a little bit easier. So, yeah, so it's about creating that sort of step up. Thank you.
Shelly, you're muted if you're speaking.
So if you could mute yours for a second. So we wanted to have Stan share the idea with the coalition because that's more connected to the parent arm of things. And we thought we'd, get your feedback and see if people in the coalition might be interested in helping make this happen. And we would need to approach the school as well, because we envision school hosting it, but it doesn't have to be. We could actually have it in another venue, if need be, because like the coalition doesn't have to be connected with the school when it sponsors something. So we could use a community-based venue as well. So are there any thoughts or feedback that you'd want to give to the group?
First off, I love those ideas because it's all about connection. And I think it's so new, connecting the veteran parents with the new parents, and then having the students reflect on what their parents are doing well. I think that's such a unique approach. So I love it.
And that to piggyback on what Gila said, we are constantly focused on capitalizing on the existing positive social normative behaviors of a community. So parents are already doing so many amazing things. I mean, look at Chris Rich. And so you have you have so much success that we want to share with the community that is the norm, that is the majorative behavior. And that totally translates to sort of the terrified rising middle school parent that's like, what's LHS going to be like? There's 1,000 kids. It's a whole new situation. There's already parents that have gone through it and are doing a wonderful job supporting their kids, making all sorts of tough decisions. So I love that positive norm approach.
I think that's a great idea. And I just wanted to add, my experience with that was one of the things that was very, I think, helpful was it's important. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead too much, but that it's important to know your kids' friends. And Long Meadow is great because you make 3 phone calls, you can get a whole background on somebody. And so there were instances where, it's that age where my daughter was a freshman, that age where they're experimenting and trying to push the envelope. You know, one time she said she was at somebody's house and she was with one of her friends. I'm like, they're not friends. The other girl doesn't like that other girl. So I was at the woman's house on Route 5 and I called my daughter. She says, I'm over at so-and-so's house. I'm like, oh, really? Because I'm in the hallway, you know? And so I think that added, you know, being, you know, involved in your child's life with, you know, knowing their friends and the parents and everything is really helpful. And that's been my experience. And I just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Paulette. Yeah, we keep hearing how significant it is for parents to keep talking to each other about things. That's one of our social norms data points we've used in the past is, you know, most parents call other parents before a social gathering at their house just to double check. So that is still the norm. It's pretty powerful.
So I think you know, what I was thinking would be a possible next step is if we reached out to the leader of the pack, the high school pack, and also the middle school packs to see if they would have interest in helping make this happen, you know, and getting it out to parents. And then the students would need to be the connection point to student, you know, like older students or students who have graduated already, who might be willing to anonymously share, you know, some of their stories. So I think we were thinking like the club members could maybe collect some of that, either using like you know, an anonymous Google form survey, or yes, or confidential interviews.
That's an awesome idea. I never thought of doing a key stakeholder interview with a high school graduate like that.
Yeah. So, and there's some older siblings, and you know, some of our stand club members have older siblings who have already gone on, and that could connect them to a network of people, right? And I know other board members have offered up some of their family members to be involved. So yeah. So should we
move on?
Pursue? Well, okay.
Yeah.
So we have a green light. We'll pursue, and I guess we'll maybe if you're interested, I think let us know. Paul will have like a sign up thing with different options of things to be involved in. If you want to be a part of the team working on this, we'll give you a chance to kind of sign up, and then we'll make like a subgroup working on putting an event together. Can you hear me through this mask?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stan. Snaps and claps to you all. I think it's an awesome idea. And that's something people have talked about for a long time is what about the transition? What about the transition? Because it's such a big jump from middle school to high school. And you guys targeted it beautifully. So let's do it. Let's reach out to PACs. There's the PAC leaders usually change, the parent advisory councils usually change leadership annually. So I'll figure out who they are, and we can all connect to them. I'll give you guys an email. We'll CC each other. Great. Let's move on to our environmental scanning project, which is one of the volunteer opportunities that we want to focus on over the summer. That is something that Tim also helped us coordinate, and I'm going to find it and share my screen. There it is. Hold on just a sec. There it is. Okay. All right. So we've done environmental scans before, and environmental scans can mean many things in many different fields. In the primary prevention field of public health, it usually means taking stake of how things are a part of the community's environment. And so that can mean advertising on the outside of buildings. That can mean how far are buildings from schools and other playgrounds and other, you know, potentially risky locations. So we have had tobacco, alcohol, we've had other environmental scans in the coalition in the past that Gila helped us partner with the Western New England University's pharmacy students, and they've done an amazing job on an environmental scan for vaping products about a year ago. There's like 12 students that were helping out. It was amazing. And they gave us the scoop on what's being advertised, what isn't being advertised, how old can you be to get into these stores in Enfield, Connecticut? Because Longmeadow didn't have any vape shops, but Enfield had many right over the border on Route 5. So I just wanted to give you a taste of what the environmental scan sheet looked like. And then there is going to be a brief form I'm going to share if people are interested in helping us out over the summer, just by doing helping us fill out one of these scan sheets. So we'll do the store name, location. If it's, this is going to include paraphernalia, we thought as well. So not just the actual, marijuana product, or sorry, cannabis product, but, if it's a gas station that sells, CBD oil or something like that, how is the CBD being advertised? Because the local Big Y gas station in Longmeadow for a long time had CBD products right at the cash register, this huge display, which none of it was lawful, and they didn't know that. And so I communicated with the public health director of Longmeadow at the time, Beverly Hirschhorn, and she's like a hawk. She was awesome. So she immediately went over and was like, "This is not allowable," and it came down. And so I don't know if it's back up, but that sort of thing is what we're sort of tracking with these environmental scans. How far are these stores or signs away from schools, places of worship, a playground, recreational facility, a daycare center? So none of these are standard zoning laws for any particular municipality. We just needed some sort of standard to sort of measure things by. So 1,000 feet is, I think, maybe, I don't know, how many football fields is 1,000 feet? Any math whizzes out there? It's not a ton of distance. 500 feet was the zone buffer for East Hampton between a daycare center, which isn't identified as, which makes no sense, obviously, as a center for, where youth are spending time, which obviously is not the case. So there's this enormous grow facility in East Hampton that's been building and building and building. I think they're almost done, but they just haven't opened. Right next to my 3-year-old's daycare center. And so totally allowable by local municipal zoning. To me, it makes no sense. I mean, I think it's like a 45-second walk between the two places. And the smell is supposed to be mitigated, but I'm super curious about how much it's going to reek of weed every day when my kid goes to preschool. And here's the list of places that Tim found that are nearby. Everything from a dispensary to a head shop like Smoke and Munch or Good Vibrations. So what's the advertising like on the outside of the building? What kind of signs or warnings are available? And can you get in? Do you have to be 21 or over, or 18, or do they even card? So like, are we going to be able to send the 17-year-olds who can just enter without being carded? The cannabis stores are pretty significantly measuring how old people are when they walk in. So that's good. They're preventing minors from entering, which is wonderful. Minimum age to enter, carding practices. What are the most, and these are some questions you can ask the clerks. What are the most popular selling products? I think INSA, the most popular stuff would be edibles. It seems like and that was the one thing we're like, oh, we shouldn't have, not the one thing. Many things were concerning the public health professionals a few years ago when these laws were being whipped up. But edibles is always a concern. Candy probably isn't the most appropriate way to use an addictive psychotropic substance for a responsible retail market. And they just push. The lobbyists won the candy battle. And so lo and behold, it's the number one consumed product for a lot of people between the ages of 21 and like 25. It's edible. So anywho, paraphernalia, THC concentrates, CBD is another thing we can put in there. So that's an environmental scan. Any questions about the scan itself or things we should be measuring or tracking that we haven't included in this? Shelly.
I like what you brought up earlier, the idea of asking if we were sending people in to the store, asking about the dispensing of medical advice.
Yeah.
Even just asking a question, ask the bud tender, what would you recommend? What would you recommend this product for? Like something like that, where you're asking and you're seeing how they do that. That's a bit more of an open-ended question, so it's not as leading, to just see if they do recommend it for a medical reason.
If anyone has a good way of asking that, I'm trying to figure out the language. What would you recommend? Or
do you have specific strains that you recommend for specific reasons?
What specific products?
Yeah.
Would you recommend is good too, right? Because it's not. That's also not.
Right, yeah.
What specific product would you recommend for specific medical conditions? And that's literally that they
Totally
should have an
different.
answer to that question, right?
Well, couldn't you also phrase it too, like, I have anxiety, what do you recommend? Because that's also not recognized by the CCC to treat that, or is that too like direct, do you think?
No, because when we do it's a fair question. When we do, I think Catherine and Jonah and Kaylee, they helped us with a vaping purchase survey. And we needed a standard thing to ask for. So I think in that case, it was like, can I have a mango jewel pod? You know, they were trying to purchase mango jewel pods. And so when they put them on the table, and they said, I'd like to purchase this, they were supposed to see if the clerk carded them or not. That was the whole point. So they weren't actually going to buy them. But they needed a standard thing to ask for that was specific. And we've done alcohol purchase surveys. It's been like Coors Light or Bud Light, right? Something specific that every person can ask to each establishment. But I think that's something like I have anxiety disorder. What product would you recommend to treat that? I think that's fine. I don't know what other people think.
So then by law, they're supposed to say we cannot make a medical recommendation?
Yep.
Okay.
What I understand, yes, they should be like, or even any type of preface of like, I'm not a medical professional. I can't actually tell you like what to do, but if I were in your shoes, like that's kind of the gray area where they could phrase it that way, but they can't just be like, this strain will help your anxiety. You know what I mean? They have to have that, like, this is not approved by the FDA to treat this. So in some extent, how they do that, I don't know how they would do that, but it would have to be some type of preface. They can't just be like, yes, this will help your anxiety.
And this is data collection, right? This isn't a sting operation. We're just collecting baselines. So if I remember there was a police department, it might've been Peabody or someplace in Eastern Mass, when there was head shops that were only supposed to be selling tobacco using apparatus. And they set up a sting operation where they said, I want to smoke cannabis. What product can you recommend? And if they recommended something for cannabis use specifically, they were arrested and fined. And then like some places lost their license to sell certain things because they were, posing as, only tobacco products, right? But that was a police department in a community that really wanted to get rid of those types of stores. If you've been to Northampton, it'd be like the Shop Therapy, the Vault, places that are sort of riddled with this cannabis culture, way before legalization and decriminalization. So they were trying to rid themselves of the paraphernalia problem. It doesn't really, I don't think it matters as much now, but it did back then. So it's an option. You can work with departments to do sting operations, but this really is data collection. So that's a good question. Any other thoughts about the environmental scan?
I just had an observation. I was driving by the Smoke and Munch yesterday, and I never really thought about the fact that it's right next to the Dairy Queen, like literally right next to the Dairy Queen. So, and you don't have to be 21 to go in there, right? So, and I've never been in there. But
to be 21 to go in the Smoke and Munch?
No, it's a convenience store. So, but it's called Smoke and Munch, right? So I'm pretty sure you don't have to be 21 to go in there.
Did
Am I
Connecticut
wrong?
change its tobacco law yet?
I think they did, but they're now poised to have legal adult use for cannabis. Start like in a matter of days, probably. That will pass, and so I just imagine like the vape shops over the line that at least one of them will probably become a dispensary. And that was a big issue for us with the vape shops, with student access. So anyway, I think keeping Enfield on our environmental plan makes a lot of sense.
The directions that Tim was working under was the idea of the 3 or 4 mile radius around Longmeadow, because Longmeadow is pretty restrictive around these types of retail outlets. So we're including, places at the X and East Longmeadow, Enfield, places like that within 3-4 miles, because it's a tight little area. I would love to jump to the infographic. Tim, do you have the most updated version? You can share your screen. Yeah, clap yourself up. That you can share your screen with. Let me give you permission.
I do, and I'm ready.
This is something that the youth cannabis use prevention subcommittee has been working on, and Tim has been steering the ship. Where's Tim's dog? That's really what I want to know.
Oh, am I ready? Okay, there we go. Sorry. Oops.
I recognize that.
Here it is. So this is the flyer that we created. The overall idea of, here, let me zoom out a little more. Now you can't see, never mind.
Zoom into each part.
Yeah, the overall idea is that this would be like a loose leaf attachment that you could hand out, whether it be at like a sports captain's meeting or whether it be at some type of school event or play, and they get like a little like leaflet of like a playbook or whatever. Put that in there, give to parents, but like a quick infographic that just kind of gives 5 risks that we all deemed as being the most impactful on youth. So as you can see, we have a lovely color scheme, much deliberation, the 5 risks of cannabis use, and then it comes down to the poor mental health. I'm not going to read it. I feel like that's a little redundant. And then you jump into couch potato syndrome. Let me know if I'm going too fast. Impaired driving. The fact that you can actually be addicted to it, which like growing up, I know I did not know, or I guess maybe I was just naive. I didn't think that was actually a thing. And then we, as in me, Shelly, and then Paul, found to include something like big tobacco wins again as being so important. And I mean, we understand that maybe some of the younger people may not care as much about that, but especially when you put that in that pamphlet at like a parent-teacher conference type deal. I know if I were a parent, I would definitely care about that, because you're just turning what used to be harmless in just tobacco into something like a cigarette. And now that's starting to become cannabis. I'm not going to say it was harmless, but is now becoming this new thing that we did not grow up with. I didn't grow up with. It's becoming this genetically engineered like monster, basically, where it's not the same thing. And it's because of, or not completely, but in part due to these tobacco giants that are just starting to try to get young people addicted to it again, just like how they do with cigarettes. So, and then there's a little blurb about the mission of Close. Visit our site, Close Community, and then that's it. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts about it. I love it. Color scheme is on point. I think it's great.
And Tim, I will say there's going to be a little asterisk at the very bottom saying for the citations, for the citations of this data, please visit, and then it'll be our website with all of the peer-reviewed studies and articles that all this information comes from. Tim made up 0 data points on this. This is all evidence-based information.
Yes.
I think it looks awesome. Is it possible to take those, like the different components, and get them individually on social media, get them up on the at the school on the screens? I wouldn't do it all at once, but I would have like a key, like the whole, like a slideshow of the 5 different components.
So
so they have time to look at them.
Yep. So the next step would be that would be the initial flyer. And then the next thing that I was going to do is take each one of those squares and do exactly that. Put them on social media, put the flyer on social media, make actual hard copies of the individual data points, and then just blast them everywhere. Give them to everybody. But yes, make them like individual things as well. And then it would be the bottom part where it says like learn more at close community, but that would just be on the flip side. And then it would just be like an individual card.
You set the bar high,
I'm not a graphic designer, but I'm proud of that one.
but the bar is set high.
I am proud of that one.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited to see it go out and be our next campaign, really like a series, you know. It's good.
Thank you so much, Tim. One of the things we're going to ask for help with our little volunteer form is doing some cannabis education outreach for doctors, dentists, and other chief stakeholders in the community. And we would love people to sign up to help out and just be able to distribute and disseminate this information. You know, on an 11 by 17 color poster at all the pediatric offices, that sort of thing could be really helpful. I have one quick question for any of the stand students that are still in the group. Was there like a title of an event you were looking to coordinate for the middle high school parent communication? I'm trying to find a good title for that.
Like a name?
What's that?
I think that's here still, Catherine.
Yeah. Just like a name for the event?
Yeah, just something to call it. So if people want to help out with it, I can reference it.
Yeah. Well, we hadn't come up with anything, but maybe just.
I love the step up idea because the parents we all know our kids are stepping up and the parents are stepping up.
Yeah.
To a new school.
Parent step up day.
I like it.
Yeah. Perfect.
I like it. Okay. Very cool. Okay. Let's do. I'm going to share the form in the chat box here. And it's a volunteer form that we would love for folks to take a look at if they're interested in anything. Please sign up. Things that are included on the form are, we have the cannabis education and outreach in the community. Disseminating the infographic is a separate thing, but just putting it up in the 12 different locations in town where you're allowed to post things, including the window of the kitchen, our local restaurant. Cannabis environmental scan, parents who host lose the most outreach, lawn sign distribution, middle school, high school parent step up event. So those are the things that are on the list. Anyone here would like to host a parents who host lose the most lawn sign that we can distribute a lawn sign locally? Paulette, you're in the area.
Yes, I am. I have to mow my lawn.
Okay.
I do not want to put it on the state of my lawn right now, but yes, I would. I'm interested in.
And I'll show that poster just one last time before. It's our campaign to let folks know that most parents do not host underage drinking parties during prom and graduation season.
Oh God, when they had parties, they used to have undercover cops checking everybody's trunks.
Yeah,
they don't play.
They're not messing around. All right, let me see if I can. I will. There it is. I'll share my screen in just a second, and then this will be the last thing we talk about. So that's basically the lawn sign. We had 33 parents or 33 lawn signs in town last year. We're a little behind that this year, maybe due in part to the fact that I wasn't in the office for the last month and a half. So here they are. The next meeting, I was looking at when should we have another coalition meeting, and we could do the end of September. We also could do the very beginning of October, and I'm wondering what people think about a particular day and time for a Thursday. Usually we do Thursdays at 7 o'clock. Thoughts and feelings about Maybe like Thursday, October 7th, that kind of thing.
Sounds great.
Let's do it. Let's aim for it. I don't see anything on the school's calendar that would prevent that. Cool. Alrighty, folks. Well, thank you so much for being here. Any other thoughts? Anything people want to share that things are coming up for themselves or their communities?
Hey, Paul, with those signs, the parents who host signs, I would take one, but I'm on a dead end and I don't think it would do much.
Ooh.
Can we put them, do they have to be in someone's yard, or can we put them more in public? Obviously we have them at the schools, but can we just?
The town is very, very strict around what signage can go where. And so the only 2 spots the town permits on public land, besides the schools is a perfect loophole. So I'm really glad we're part of the schools, because Marty O'Shea just sort of, yeah, I condone that. And so we put it all the middle schools and high school. But there's the top of Route 5 and the bottom of it, north and south, where you enter or exit town, are the only places where you can have signs. And the only colors you can use on the sign are yellow, black, and white. It's super strict. But for some reason, a lot of people use those spots for signs, and the colors are all over the place. And they're supposed to be really big font. There's all these like restrictions. And we try to play by the rules with that. So that Paul Heatley and the other folks that make those decisions at the town level, which make their job easier to support that.
I can take 5. I have friends and neighbors that I can ask to post them. So I can take 5 if that's helpful.
Yeah, Paulette, that's helpful. Gila always takes one. She's right on the Springfield Longmeadow area corridor. So any other folks, just let me know. Shoot me an email.
Sounds good, Paul. I'll take one too. I'll stick it in my lawn.
Catherine, that's what I'm talking about. You have prime real estate, Catherine. You're on Route 5 right next to St. Andrews.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm.
You could put it really close to St. Andrews' land too, so that everyone will be like, wow, they have a faith-based group supporting their mission?
You could give me 2 signs and I would put one on St. Andrews for it.
Catherine,
an idea.
I can give you 3 signs.
Mm-hmm.
But not 4. That's ridiculous. Okay, any other thoughts or feelings before we say so long farewell? Let's shoot for October. And Tim, you're going to be off the clock by then, but we'd love to have you join us one last time just to thank you for all the work you will already be doing and have done. Tim's going to graduate school at Salem State to become a high school history teacher.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
I am unbelievably disappointed in that decision. I think he should be a public health leader, but I don't want to out him in front of all of you. Oops. Yeah, he's going to be an amazing history teacher. All right, folks, thanks so much for joining us. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Take care.
Thank you so
Paul.
much.